Demetrius Boo Andrade does what he has to do and gets himself a unanimous decision over 12 rounds against Liam Williams to defend his WBO middleweight championship of the world. Demetrius started off the fight at a pretty fast pace, hurting Liam Williams in the very first round and knocking him down in the second round to the point where I thought that fight wasn't going to last much longer. But all credit to Liam Williams, he was able to keep himself in the fight, and Demetrius was comfortable with coasting to unanimous decision. And a lot of people think that Demetrius Andrade is a lot of flash, very little substance type of fighter, and I don't think that necessarily. I think he has a lot of skill. I think he's very talented, but he is his worst enemy. What do I mean by that? Well, when he has his fighter lined up and ready to go, Demetrius oftentimes doesn't press on the gas pedal and lays back and just continues to box his way into a decision. Some people think that gets boring, gets a little dull, and I don't blame Demetrius. I mean, the boxing game has continuously evolved, and it's more or less about hitting and not getting hit. And that's something that Andrade does very well, but it doesn't really get a lot of attention from the fans. If he doesn't get that type of attention from his boxing style, then he has to find a different route or different avenue to provide him with eyeballs that would eventually pay him dividends. Nevertheless, I think he did it exceptionally well. After the fight, once he was declared the winner, where he got a chance to speak, so did Eddie Hearn, and I think both of them did really well putting themselves out there. I think Andrade is also having a hard time being at 160, and he is going to be ready to move up. Also, another thing to take note of, on DAZN, the commentators during the fight were also speaking on this, and I spoke on this before. Boo is not a young fighter, unfortunately for him, and his record. If you look over his record, it almost looks like a prospect's record because he's never really fought anybody of note. If anything, Williams is his best win since Veins, and that was in 2013. So he really needs to start being able to land these bigger fights, whether it's his fault or not. And I know Eddie Hearn is helping on getting these fights for him right now, because pretty soon, whether he likes it or not, his prime is going to end and he's going to start being in a downward slope, especially if he's having a hard time cutting weight to keep himself a world champion at 160. Nevertheless, after the fight, Eddie Hearn and Demetrius both spoke on them wanting the bigger fights like Triple G and of course Charlo. But before we get to Charlo, let's talk about Triple G. Eddie Hearn brought up an interesting point. Triple G, although in the twilight of his career, is perhaps the biggest name at 160 right now, and although he was able to compile a pretty decent resume towards the end of his career, I think a win over Andrade would be his signature win even at this point. So I think that fight would be phenomenal. But like Eddie Hearn stated, it seems like Triple G is interested in the Murata fight at the end of the year, meaning he's potentially not going to have a fight all of 2021 just to wait for that Murata title fight, which is not very smart. And he called Triple G out on that, and he also called DAZN out on that to try to get him more active, especially because it's just barely mid-April and he's going to sit out another 8 months just to wait for the Murata fight. It just doesn't really make too much sense. He also spoke about Charlo, so he was also called out, and I really like that, and I really appreciate that from the promoter, from Andrade. I think Andre's almost at the point where he needs to move up and hopefully land the bigger fights at 168. But again, if he's staying at 160, he needs that Triple G fight, he needs that Charlo fight, and whether he beats them or not, it's still going to be great for not only the sport but for his career and his resume. And let me emphasize one last thing. Andre is 33, Triple G is damn near 40, and Charlo is 30 himself, so he's not too far behind Andre. So I think Andre and Charlo need each other much more so than Triple G needs them. And I'm saying that because Triple G has already faced his fair share of elite fighters. Not too many, but he's had his fights already. But Andre and Charlo need those type of opponents on their resumes, and they're not getting any younger. So hopefully Andre going forward is able to land one of these bigger fights. Anyway guys, let me know what you guys thought about the video, what you guys think about Andre's victory over Williams, and who do you think or want to see him face next. Like always, leave a comment in the comment section below, hit that like and subscribe button, and make sure you click the notification bell so you can be notified whenever I drop a video. This is Shay at King Meat Boxing, signing out.